You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Wepa! What up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders. This is going to be a really great episode today because we got two amazing creators, right? One has been a boss all the way from the land down under. We got another man over there all the way from Europe. I mean, these cats have come together to create something called the Speed Republic. You know, it's going to be coming out through Man Cave next year in February. That's right, yo. We're bringing you some early on greatness by these two amazing creators. Let me bring up the first homie, all the way from Mars, the one and only Ryan. K Lindsay. Where I was popping, brother.
Hey, mate, it's good to be on. Thank you for having us across. I really appreciate it.
No. Thank you for coming on. Let me bring in the other big homie, the one and only the artist that's drawing this beautiful book right here. The one, Emanuele Parascandolo. Tell me I got that right. Tell me I got it right.
Yeah, you got it right. Thank you.
Nice.
Excellent. So thank you guys for coming on, man. This is going to be a blast here because you guys have created a beautiful book. There goes the big dog right there himself, Lucas Fishina, saying, Epale. You know, also a big fan of you guys. So, all right. So, let us know, Ryan, starting with you. Where you at right now? Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the awesomeness of this great book.
All right, for those wondering, what we do down here, down under, is we write some comics and have been doing so for nearly a decade. I'm closing in on a decade from when my first short story launched into the world. Yeah, which is pretty, it's pretty nuts. It was pretty cool. So I've spent the last 10 years balancing that writing with a full-time teaching load. And so I sort of managed to get like a solid story or two out every year, whether it's a graphic novel or a mini series. And I've worked with, Dark Horse and IDW and Black Mask a bunch of times, and a few other publishers. And so I'm just slowly like branching out into new sort of areas of like story, because we were talking before the show started that like my niche is like sci-fi but weird and then mashed up with crime, and we sort of like start to flow out there. And so I've put everything I've learned into this story, Speed Republic, with Mad Cave, who's a publisher. It's the first time I've worked with them, and they have been unreal to work with. They have been absolutely phenomenal. So
I expect that. I met Mark, and I saw the fire and passion behind the CEO that run Man Cave. So it's like, I believe it, yo. That's a real dude with a real company right here. I love it. So how about you?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. How about you, man? Well, let them know, man. How is it? Where you at and all?
Okay, I'm in Napoli, Italy, which is the south of Italy. And I've been doing comics for almost 10 years now. I've been studying and making comics, although I've only published a few comics by Italian editors, minor editors. And last year I've been proposed to make this comic book with Mad Cave for Mad Cave with Ryan. And this was I think it was my first major experience for an American comic book. It's my first American comic book, and it's been a blast. Total blast.
So let me start with this question with you then. So what was your first love in this pop culture realm? What was the first thing that you fell in love with and kind of inspired you?
You mean in the comic culture?
Whether it's comics, whatever it was, because everybody's different. Some people it was a comic, some people was the TV, some people was just a TV show or movie. So what was it for you?
Well, I gotta say, it's gotta be the Amazing Spider-Man in general. When I was a kid, it was the first thing that it stuck with me for my whole life. I'd seen cartoons, and my first comic book actually was Spider-Man.
Okay.
And that the day I opened that comic book, I said, "Wow, I want to do this when I grow up." So that's how we started.
What do you mean? Write comic books or be Spider-Man?
Well, probably I was going. I was going for being Spider-Man back then. Yeah, I was trying to, shoot webs, and no. Then later, I decided there was more realistic to draw comic books because that was my passion actually ever since I was a little kid. Yeah,
Excellent.
to
What
draw.
about you, Ryan? What was that first love? What was the first love? The one that said, "Oh my God, I need to do this. This is my joint."
Yeah, I mean, because I grew up with two older brothers. One's 5 years older and one's 10 years older, and so I just had lots of story around when I was growing up. I just remember from as far back as memory exists in my head, there have been comics around, there have been dodgy horror movies, there have been novels, like there's all this sort of stuff. But I think if I really delve back, the thing that probably was like the real spark of especially like creation passion was probably Roald Dahl books and falling in love with like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and then Matilda and the Witches, and then transitioning from those into reading his autobio stuff like Boy and Going Solo. I remember discovering those at about age 9 and just sort of going like, oh, this guy can write like the magic finger for like 4-year-olds, but then he can like layer up. And then I found like a bunch of his short stories that he had published in stuff like Playboy and different places. And they're really
Playboy.
like,
Wait a minute. How old were you looking these things up in Playboy, you naughty boy?
I was doing it for the articles, man. There's nothing wrong with that. A refined gentleman. But yeah, he had these adult collections of short stories, and they're twisted, they're dark and like really subversive. And I just I can remember going through his whole catalog and just realizing that this author always played with the absurd, but he always teased it out in different ways depending on his audience. And he had these like great big ideas. And that was probably like, it was around that age that I started writing short stories. They were terrible, like utterly horrendous, as they all should be when you start off. But I do remember back then wanting to make comics, but distinctly knowing I could not draw. And so I knew that was a limit. And so I wouldn't start really tinkering with comics until I was in my early 20s.
Oh, really? So, all right. So I'll start this question with you. So was it in your early 20s when you found your tribe, if you will, your artists, your colorists, your network of folks that also love this?
Yeah, and especially being in Australia, I had no idea like if enough people were making comics down here. We all seemed so spread out across this gigantic country, and so I just sort of started tinkering with scripts and ideas, like just like alongside teaching. So it was really just like a thing that I would just tinker with. But eventually I got a story together, and I remember I put a pitch together, and I looked on Digital Webbing was the name of the site where you can link up with artists. So this would have been like 2006 maybe. Okay. And you probably know this guy. I linked up with Justin Greenwood, who has done like a bunch of stuff.
So through Digital Webbing.
yeah. He responded to an ad thing, and we got chatting, and so I hired him for this pitch, and it didn't go anywhere because, to be honest, it was a terrible story. Great art, but terrible story. And so we put this pitch together, and we just stayed in contact forevermore after there. We'd share stuff with each other, and we still want to do something together. But I have been able to catch up with him when I've gone across to Seattle, and he's just like a great dude. He's just like a really top bloke. And so through him, I met a few people, you start to, as you say, branch out. Because one of the questions I often get now from people is like, where do you find artists and colorists? And at the moment, I got to say, I have absolutely no idea. Like in 2021, I have no clue. 10 years ago, I would say go on Twitter, which is what I did. And that's where I met Eric Zavadsky, and that's where I met Owen Gianni. And it was through Eric Brisson on Twitter that I met Sammy Cavella. So all these people that I've worked with came through social media. I don't use social media in that way anymore because it's a bit of a swamp. And so, but 15 years ago, Digital Webbing got me the Justin Greenwood hookup, and it was putting that pitch together. And I wrote the full miniseries out because I was just like, I just needed to get immersed into it. And we did this 5-6 page pitch. And putting that out there was so creatively fulfilling. And I remember thinking that even though it got picked up nowhere, it was still amazing to say, oh, I've leaped a new hurdle. I've put a pitch together. So next is I put a short story together, and then I put a bunch of, you slowly start building. But it was a really, I look back on that as a really sort of like fun time. It's kind of cool.
What about you, Mayo? When did you find your tribe? Was it an easy find? And I know Italy has a big comic community, but was it easy to find your tribe?
Well, no, I am, I was pretty, it was pretty easy because I studied in a school. After high school, I went to a school that is pretty famous in Italy, which is Scuola Italiana di Comics. It's a big school here, and during those years, I managed to to understand which kinds of comics and languages in comics I preferred, and I've met a lot of people, a lot of great people who taught me a lot, and right after that, actually, I met Michele, the colorist for Speed Republic, Michele Monte,
Okay.
and we spent a lot of time together, working together on different stuff, and that's pretty much how I got into this, because he kind of introduced me,
Okay,
and
gotcha. But that's
Nice.
the way it is. You got to get the hookup sometime,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is great. And God bless that opportunity because we get to see the awesomeness of your amazing work now.
Thank you, thank you.
So shout out to your homie there for helping.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's great. So, folks, let me do it, man. 'Cause these guys are talking about speed power, speed power. People are like, what is this? Let me show you, man. They have this awesome trailer, courtesy of Matt Cave. Yo, check this bad boy out. You guys are gonna dig it.
Dari boschi vivi e scuri, amarava mussolini, e da via i Santo Luca, tutti amavano respiro, iba verso una campagna, 11 era traditori, che votava sua montagna, lo contrasto senza muri, riposavano tranquilli, lustri unica suo amanti, e Lucerto suo cugino, riposava più distanti, e Benedetto non sapeva di non farne compagnia, tanto l'odio distruggiva, e qui l'occhi non vivia.
I love that old school time music right there too, man. That's gangster. So, talk about the inspiration behind this story right here. What's going on, man? 'Cause I mean, it looks like the world has gone batshit crazy.
Yeah, man. Like Matt Cave had reached out to me a while back because we've been prepping this one. It's all done, which is really, really cool.
Nice.
They'd reached out to me and they had like this kernel of an idea. And so I was like, look, I want to take this and I want to just like, I want to play with it. I want to have fun. I want to get nuts with it. What's the scope on this? And they were like, look, the scope is like, do some awesome work. So they were so creatively open to me going a little bit nuts with this concept. And so what we ended up bringing together was this idea that, in the future, and there's this whole global political thing, but we hone in. There's been some, superpowers acting pretty super bad. And so we end up with this like forged state of Europe that has come together, but it does not work for the multitude of people. It works for the 1%. Shock horror. And so we have this entire nation state of Europe just in distress and under control of this guy, the autocrat. He's this sort of demagogue figure that just like looms over everything. He's got a finger in every pie. He is
But
the
what the hell is an
omniscient controller.
autocrat? So he's not a Republican or a Democrat. What the hell is an autocrat? He's the worst of them both.
That's it. We're just siphoning out the worst of like everything that you can get, and so we get this guy, this functional name of the autocrat as well. So it's very impersonal, very very character that you'd be skeptical of. And so you can see him in the trailer. He's like bang, starting the race off. And so he's not the sort of person you want in charge, but he's the sort of person you end up with in charge. That's the sort of how it happens. And so within this world, we have this opportunity of the grand race where people can go in with their cars and they can aim to get to Odensk in Denmark and win. And if they do, endless pleasures and money await. But for most people along the way across Europe, it's just not going to go well. So we have this sort of like Mad Max meets Speed Racer sort of nuts race. But within it, we have this guy sitting on the hood of his car, Seb Valencia. And so he was, I loved the setup that we eventually came up with. I love this idea of the grand race. I love this cannonball run through this future dystopian thing. I love these political overtones above it, but Seb's the anchor to it all. So he's a listless guy. He is unanchored. He doesn't know what he's doing, sort of thing, but his dad's getting sick. And so he realizes, like, life's all heading in one, it's all going down the drain for everybody. He wants to see if he can turn it around. So we open with him in this race, hoping to set off, but he's not exactly, built to win or be completely heroic or anything like that. He's very much a sort of everyman. He's just sort of trundling along, and he's got.
It's like us three went ahead and tried to say, yo, let's go jump into a race with these pros. Sure, why not?
Pretty much. We'd have some fun, but we'd have to make sure we survived. And so, yeah, he becomes this sort of center to an exploration of the landscape, but it also becomes a bit of an exploration of, like, how far do we go to try to maintain hope? And how far are we willing to go to try and find some semblance of, if not victory, normality, or, a survival?
Or do we keep feeding these pigs that are the 1%, like without suffrage, if you will?
Yeah. And so
suffering.
It's a brilliant landscape to sort of tell some fairly universal things that we do not need the future and a fused Europe state to actually happen for us to really understand a lot of the undertones of what's happening.
And what happened to the water, yo? What happened to the water? I mean, that's kind of a theme, and kind of that's where, I definitely see that Mad Max theme. Certain things are scarce.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and are they scarce because they're dwindling, or are they scarce because that's the way they've been positioned and controlled? Not to get too tinfoily on this one, but often scarcity is a feature of the product and not a bug in the system. And so, we delve into all of those things, and that's why we started initially. I hope I get this one right. We started initially with Chris Fernandez editing and massaging this together, and then he got an upgrade and a promotion, and Chris Sanchez came on to edit
a hell of a promotion.
Yes, and so I think it was Chris Fernandez who had initially sent me a link to Emanuele's Instagram. Oh, nice. And I remember we were talking about, like, style and theme and tone of everything in the story, and he sent me this link, and he was like, well, let's start thinking about who we're going to, work with now that we've got the story sort of like cooking. And I get this link to Emanuele's Instagram, and I was just like, well, here's our artist. Like, 100%.
Oh, you fell in love instantly. Love man. There's a bromance here, folks. You hear this?
Absolutely. You wonder why the shirt's open. It's because I'm heating up. It's not just the Aussie heat either. Although that'd be a good nickname. No. I'm
so flattered.
Hey, Aussie heat. Hey, look at that. Now we know Ryan K Lindsay when we comes into a match into the wrestling ring. Aussie heat. Hey.
Aussie heat and the Italian stallion. That's us. And so no, I like it was from memory. It was the first artist. It was the first link that Chris had sent me, and I was like, "Oh, can we please get Emanuele on this book?"
It was on your first. You fell in love. You were done. Decision made. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about that, Mayo?
Yeah, I feel. As I said, I'm very flattered. Thank you, Ryan. And I didn't know all of this. This is behind the scenes for me, and I'm all the more flattered because I didn't know it was love at first sight. Thank you.
Oh, no.
No, I can see, man. I could see that you'd bring the energy to the pages, but like we were saying earlier, like, the characters need to pop. Like, ultimately, it's a car chase book, but it's also, Seb's story, and it's the story of the people of Europe. And so I really wanted, and you see it in that trailer. Oh my goodness, watching it again just then, I was like smiling at so many different, like, there's little moments. And I hope some people go back to that trailer. Like, there's even, you can see one where, and I'll talk about them in a moment, but these dog heads, these people in dog masks, are pouring the fuel over the car, and Seb's sitting in there. And if you look closely, he's just sitting there with a big dumb grin on his face. And just little moments like that, just like snap off the page. And that's what's like, that was like, you write a story, you fall in love with a story, but when it's sent to you in your inbox through beautiful, perfect storytelling art, that's when it's like, all right, now we're getting married. This is real love sort of thing. So, but I was going to say those dog head characters, they were fun to like dream up. They're like this weird sort of club meets cult meets, like, if you think the Ducky Boys in The Wanderers, if you've ever seen
The
that.
Ducky Boys.
Yeah, these
Okay,
are
yeah.
European Ducky Boys coming out. Yeah. And so they're nuts. They're the element of chaos. Like, they're complete anarchy in Europe. You know, you've got control, you've got poverty. These fools are nuts. And the way that Emmanuel's brought them to life, you just feel their like chaotic energy just like humming through the panels. And they're a great element to play with in the story. They're not an element I'd want to come across or anything like it in real life. But geez, yeah, they're stuff like that where we get to like, you know, we get to reimagine what this future might look like and how it will get in the way of Seb. So much fun. And that trailer really does hint at an insane amount. I think
I saw a few things reading the first issue. I was like, oh wow, yeah, definitely people. Oh my god, I can't wait till they go back after reading the first issue and see this, like, then anticipate what's gonna happen. Because now for me it's anticipation, like, oh snap, there's some crazy stuff that's gonna pop off in this mofo, and I can't wait. So Emanuele, talk about the process, man. I mean, how easy is it to work with Ryan? How easy is it to translate those words into art?
Yeah, it was surprisingly easy. Not because I mean, it's all credit to you, Ryan, because we never worked before together. And as I read the script, I literally could picture every scene right away. You know, it was all in my mind already, and I thought, this is a pleasure to read. This could be a book actually, without art. And then I was so happy to see Ryan's response and Chris' response to the first layouts of the pages and the characters design, because they were. I didn't really try. You know, I didn't have to make several attempts. I just started drawing the characters, especially Seb Valencia. He formed in my mind. I thought it's got to be this. He's got to look like this. He's kind of he's a normal guy, but he's involved in stuff that is bigger than him, and but he's still our hero, so it's got to be fun. And I don't know, I had so much fun making this character, every character actually. In fact, in the trailer there's a lot of foreshadowing of stuff we will see, people will see in the other issues, and I really want to talk about
yeah
a lot of characters.
I was glad to see some of the Gonzo stuff in there, like he's driving along with the brain next to the car.
Yeah,
I can only imagine people are looking at that and going, what's coming?
That's going to be
that
amazing.
messed me up, because I read that first issue. I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell is this brain? Yo,
that's a great issue. That's one of those things where I'm like, oh, can we? And then Emanuele and Alza, I'm like, oh man, can we ever? That issue is going to go off.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was the craziest. And I remember that was the one I worked on that one during summer. So it was boiling hot. And that's how it all came out, you know.
Yeah. It's got so much energy.
I want to know, man, what's the car inspiration, the design? What car inspiration? Because I kind of see a little I see Mercedes here, but then with that wing, kind of throws me off.
Yeah, I have to make a confession. I'm not an expert in cars, so I took some of the models that were in the script, because Ryan and Chris, I think they came up with a few models.
Okay.
And I started looking up every reference I could, because that was one of my first time drawing so many cars in just one comic book. So I at some point I actually mixed in some features from cars.
I see it though. It looks hot though, man. You know, you might get some new car enthusiasts doing some things here.
Yeah, because I figured, you know, it's a dystopian future. Maybe people are, you know, making cars from scraps.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's my excuse for not knowing cars.
And let me tell you, you made this man look so scummy.
Yeah.
Look at his face. I mean, I feel like smacking him already.
Yeah,
he's terrible. You've nailed that on the page.
Yeah. Did you Is he modeled after any politician in your country or something? 'Cause don't get yourself in trouble. I don't want you to get.
No, I'm not saying anything. Maybe he's modeled after every politician,
Yeah.
so I don't get in trouble. I'm joking. That's a
Well,
joke.
look at this, folks. I mean, this is what this race is. I mean, it's a race that, you know what, you got scumbags on the road too. I mean, you got, you got little traps. You got people that got paid to F with you. I mean, this race is not an easy race. Like, if you're gonna make it to the top, I mean, when they talk about surviving, it's not a joke.
Yeah, we put together a whole document that was like rules of the race, and we were just like, people could mess with each other, and we were like, all right, to make sure that it's over so many, like, hundreds of kilometers. Realistically, if it was just one long continuous race, it would stretch out too far and you wouldn't have conflict. So we made it that you have to go through certain cities, and once you get there, you can't leave, straight away. And so that way cars get a chance to kind of catch up and keep messing with you.
Fair.
And when you get to the cities, you kind of have to keep in motion so that no one like ambushes you or whatever. But when you get to cities, you can also hunt out certain items, and that'll get you like an early leavers pass. So then we've got these tiny little like bottle elements of like ticking clocks. And so that part was really fun, and we came up with all that sort of stuff just to make sure that tension kept being reintroduced. But
you're very sick, Ryan. You're a sick man.
Thank you. I don't like making anything easy for any of my characters ever. So that's definitely a running theme. I don't think many of my characters get a smooth run from go to woe in any books, and this book is no different. We really keep the foot down on the pedal until pretty much the last page. It's nice. and in fact, there's one moment I love that we've written way late in the series for the Autocrat, where I remember writing it and thinking, this is too much, like this could never work. And then reading the news for half an hour and being like, no, anyone can do anything these days and it'll work. So I was like, let's do it.
In today's world, anything is absolutely possible. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, but look at those pages, man. Just looking at them again, you see how kinetic they are and how much like flow there is on them. And man, our colorist,
yes, I wanted to say that. Yeah,
a gift.
The coloring is gorgeous, and not just that. I mean, we look at the letterer with the boom and the placement of everything. Great job. I mean, I see the placement of the bee to make sure not to interfere with the character himself. I mean, great usage of the space.
Yes.
I'm digging it.
It's been such a dream book to put together, and I mean, Emanuele, we've been working on this for a year more. I don't know.
I think it was a bit less than a year. I think we started. It was March, I think, and then we ended somewhere near November last year. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was a pretty long time, and I felt cozy while doing it. After a while, I was happy every day to wake up and start making pages. It was.
How did you get the rest of the teams together, though? Because you have these colorists and letterer. How did you get them on board? Because I know you mentioned that one of them was a buddy in school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where did the other person come from?
Well, I wasn't very involved in the process. Okay. I mean, I got later. The team was already formed, I think. Right?
Okay, it was Ryan. Okay.
Yeah, I think Chris must have brought the letter in from.
Oh, nice. So Mad K kind of really, helps form the Voltron mechanism, if you will.
Yes. Nice. Definitely, they've been really, really cool. Their stuff, man. I'm fairly sure you guys have been covering a bit of it already over the last little while, but their books are good. And just on the up and up. I love the ideas they're coming up with and the creative teams that they're putting together. So yeah, to get a chance to slipstream in to their fold and tell a really fun, really bombastic but still really meaningful story is completely my jam. I love that sweet space.
Yeah. Look at these crazy bastards right there, right? These are the dudes you're talking about. Right? Look at these nuts. Look at these guys.
Yeah, they were.
I'm sorry. What?
No, I was going to say they were fun to write because you can go a bit nuts. But yeah, the way you've drawn their masks and their faces just looks so. I don't know. It's eerie, man. They're really extra creepy.
It's on that the Purge stuff. Right?
Yes.
yeah, that's definitely one of the influences here.
Oh, there
So
you go.
I'm happy to know that they came out creepy and all as they were intended to be, actually. And
It
you
is,
know,
yeah.
I love making this story because as I drew the pages, I was reading the script, of course, and I love how it was crazy, because it was totally crazy, and but there was so much character development in here, for the main character and all the other characters. I just loved, while reading it. That's something I loved about it, really.
Oh
That's good,
man,
man. It's
so
nice to be able to find those layers to put into the story and that the art can bring out. Because yeah, ultimately I want people to go, this is a cool world, and dive in. But at the end, they need to sort of go like, well, we went on kind of like a personal whirlwind. And so yeah, we've got Seb at the center. We've got this other racer, Shane, who appears in the first issue, and she's very, very interesting and mysterious
oh yes, she
initially.
is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so
I thought
while
he was gonna score. I was for a minute. I guess not.
No, well,
Oh,
that's
not
it. You
yet.
never know what's going to happen on the roads, and so we try to keep it all mysterious in the first issue. And so Seb is like our open sort of like book case of like, here's what life looks like here. And Shane, she's kind of like the opposite, where it's just like, well, here's someone clearly affected by this world, but we don't know what's going on in there. And so we wanted that sort of like 1-2 punch, and their journeys, you know, go at like different sort of like wavelengths throughout it. But it's interesting to follow them. And then we have like these other little side characters that we kind of like build in, whether it's the dogheads who are like a force of nature, or whether it's some of the other people that we slowly start to investigate as issues, you know, 2+ come out. We always want people to feel like lived in the world, and not like they've entered the scene, but that the scene has passed through their life. And so as we meet them, they've got like a lot going on, and they've got their own goals sort of going on. But our story then sort of intersects with them, and that's where, you know, some more drama comes out. Because yeah, thinking about like the amount of space, like the cities that we take up and the countries that we go throughout the tale, you're going to have different people sort of turn up, and you've almost got these like racing vignettes of like, here's how we interact with this city for this purpose, but then it rolls on. So it's a cool sprawling story with Seb and Shane sort of going through their separate journeys of exploration of why they're in the race and what the race means to them.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just like really fun to put together and try to make it as difficult as possible for them, but as sort of like chaotically interesting at the same time. And I think in the end, like, I'm really exceptionally proud of this comic. I think I've pushed myself to work in like a slightly different genre, to work in a different tone almost, and yet still bring those sort of elements that I feel thread through my books, like characters that just cannot get it right, and kind of like weird, strange elements, like that brain thing that we saw, and like in the trailer, there's like the person on the horse, but they're wearing some weird sort of helmet. Stuff like that sort of gets to crop up, and I love that Chris was allowing me to put that into the story, to have these strange asides. So yeah, I'm hugely invested in what we got to do with this book. And then, to be honest, like, the second half of my entire push for this book is just Emanuele's art. Like, as you said, his next gig needs to be lining up. His next 3 years need to be lining up based on the heat he is bringing into this comic, into the covers, into every page, into the characters. Like, you can see instantly, like, this guy's got it. Like,
future legend in the making right here, bro, for real. So how long is this series?
5 issues.
5 issue, okay. And is there more story beyond this 5-issue series, you believe, or no?
At this stage, much like most of my stuff, I do my best to end the story we're telling.
Gotcha. So it's a story, you're done, and then if there's something comes up, though, you know, is there a possibility it could return?
Well, I would say there's always a chance you could come back and do something else. It's a pretty interesting world.
He's a tough dude, the one and done. It's like, I did it. That's it.
Yeah, there's not a lot I return to. I'm usually pretty bad. Like, I really salt the earth at the end of my stories. This one, I alter the landscape a little bit, let's say. But there could be. You never know. You never know. I mean, one would hope, if pre-orders go through the roof, Mad Cave might want to follow up. So
why not? I mean, I know Mad Cave definitely, definitely has extended a lot of storylines. So you never know. I think people are going to dig this. Fans of the Fast and the Furious, Mad Max, all that, the whole dystopian, fucked up future. I mean, not that we're already living it, but why not, bro? Here we go. Dig into it there, because I mean, they definitely make it fun. And it's with cars, and you got some assholes on the roads. You face them every day,
Well, that's it. Yeah, you can get all of that tension out now in the book, rather than worrying about it on the crazy streets out there.
Oh, let me tell you, I wish I had a trunk that I could come out with a cannon and blast the people that try to cut me off. I mean, why not? Could you imagine? That'd be great.
I'll keep my eye on the news for you.
Puerto Rican goes wild on Orlando's expressway, shoots cannon from trunk. News at 11. All right. So
I love it.
What's in the future let me start with Emanuele. What's in the future for you? So, outside of this particular book, is there any other projects you're working on that we need to be on the lookout for, kiddo?
Oh, well, there's actually one comic book that is coming out, but it's only coming out in Italy, so I really cannot talk about it right now. Apart from that, no, not really at the moment. I'm just working on a lot of stuff that I hopefully will see the light one day, and I'll keep you posted.
And do you take commissions for art? Should anyone be interested?
Yeah, sure, I do all the time.
Excellent. So it is like the social right here on Twitter, Instagram, the best places for that?
Yeah, sure. That's the best place. Thank you.
And then my last question for you then would be, on your journey here, what's the best advice you could give an up and coming artist?
Well, I know it may sound a bit a repetition of the old phrases, but you should never give up. And I know it sounds the same old story, but there have been a lot of times during these years where I almost gave up, and then I just didn't. Maybe because someone gave me an advice, or I just pushed through because I didn't know what else to do. But that's different for everyone. But I think the best thing you can do is to never give up and keep trying, because someday you'll suck, someday you'll be the best you've ever been, and the other day you'll suck again. And that's a wheel, it always spins.
And it's okay.
You should never give up. Yeah, it's okay.
Fantastic. There you go. I love it, man. Great words. What about you, Ryan, brother? What we got in the future coming from you outside of this bad boy that's being published in February?
Yes, well, as people go out to lay their pre-order down for this with their local comic shop, they should be able to, what date are we in about 2 weeks, I think it is, the trade paperback collection of Everfrost lands in bookstores.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
And that's a book I put together with Sammy Cavella through Black Mask. And it is a weird, super future snow planet, insane sci-fi story of some pretty intense heartbreak. And so it follows a sort of warrior scientist lady who lives out in the ice, who is trying to get off planet. And she's found a way, so she's going to try and rally some of her people and get out, but it is not going to go well. Spoilers.
Of course, it's a Ryan K Lindsay story. It's never going to go well at first. Hell no, it can't be easy for the protagonist.
Poor ass people. And so, yeah, that comes out, I want to say December the 8th. So hopefully people will pick that up, because the 4 issues came out this year, and I love working with Sammy Cavella.
That's
Dude,
a stocking stuffer too, folks.
And isn't it just like it's a done-in-one story? It's a complete story. It's one of my favorite things I've written. It's big and huge sci-fi. It's beautiful. So hopefully people can check that out. I've got Black Beacon coming out through Heavy Metal. I think we have two more issues before the story wraps up. So Sebastian Perez is my co-creator on that one, and his artwork has been knocking it out of the park. It's this big sci-fi story about humanity sending a small ship well across the universe to follow this beacon that has said, turn up for salvation. And so we send people out there, and we find this gigantic epic Dyson sphere, which is like a space station built around the sun. And when the humans get there, they realize this thing's been there a while. It was never salvation, and now it is just a den of iniquity. And so they have to work out what the hell they're going to do there. And so we follow our lead's character, Nico, as she tries to survive, figure things out, and stumble across a larger mystery that is a galactic concern. And so that book has been nuts so far, and I've loved getting that out there, and that'll wrap up coming into the new year. But then I'm also working on a new graphic novel with Louis Joyce, who is an Australian artist who did Past the Last Mountain with Paul Aller, which is a beautiful book. And him and I are putting this graphic novel together. It's like this dragon kung fu book, and it is insanely
Dragon Kung Fu.
Yeah, it's wild. It's sort of like my spiritual successor to Eternal, that graphic novel I did with Eric Zavadsky. It's gorgeous. It's taken us forever to make because we've put everything into it. And we're going to be bringing that out through Comics Tribe in the new year at some stage. So
this
I'm
guy
really
is everywhere. Bro. I love Ryan's web, man. I think this is Spider-Man. No wonder you work with him. The hell of a web. Many, bro. God bless you on the journey, because I've been with you and seeing your rise from 10 years ago. So I see. So you know what? I'm really proud to, kind of see you on this ride and seeing you talk like this. Like, this day, pop, got this. Yo, bro, we're really proud of you. I know Dodgy, as a fellow countryman, it's having it puffing his chest out like, yeah, that's my boy from Mars.
Damn straight. We're keeping it up, and I got to say, I agree with Emanuele as well. It's like one of those things, like, we're making it because I think we're not smart enough to give up. Like, that's what it takes. You just gotta like keep like plugging away at it, and I think that's the insanity of it, but it's also what gets us up to keep making it. And eventually, it's a war of attrition. You eventually make some good stuff. So no, man, Al, I appreciate, like, you guys have been super supportive for a long time. I've gotten a lot of thoughtful, like, interviews and very fair reviews on your site, and I love it, man. So, thank you.
We're here to celebrate you guys, man, because without you guys, we wouldn't be entertained. So flower time, like, thank you for being creative and sharing of yourselves. I definitely appreciate that. Thank you for putting yourselves out there in the way that you do. Not many people are bold enough to do that. So just thank you, and just much success, continued success in every step of the way, for real, to both of you. You know what I mean? God bless you guys on this journey.
Thank you.
You guys have been a blast. So, folks, right now, go check it out. You'll get that preview, get that preview. I just showed you could check it out right there on MadCaveStudios.com. All right. This will be dropping in shops in February 2022. So, listen, there's no excuse. We're not even in 2022 yet. So, go pre-order this bad boy. Go to your local shop. Go check out your Diamond Pool List, your Lunar, whatever, whoever the hell it is. Tell them this is the code. I need you guys to order me this bad boy. Please make sure to follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan K Lindsay right there. And por favor, follow Emanuele on Twitter at that one.
Yeah,
and then
it's a bit tricky.
One. Yeah, because they want Il Fratello di Parascandolo.
Yeah, it's an inside joke for Neapolitan people. Oops.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
Oh, damn. And as we end, there you go. That's the joke right there. Everything's all over the place.
I'm sorry about that.
The Leaning Tower of Pizza has fallen, everybody. A piece. I'm sorry.
No, we love it. People get out there and pre-order. We know that it matters, especially for small publishers. We know that it matters for these independent, stories. We know that it matters because of paper shortages coming up. We know that it matters because we want our comic shops and our retailers to keep thriving. And we know that if you pre-order, the store goes, oh, maybe there's some interest, and maybe they add another one to the shelf. So there's so many reasons that, you got to get out there and make sure. Don't wait until, Feb and then roll into your store and hope one's on the shelf. You don't want to miss out.
And don't wait till somebody on the speculator side says, oh my God, this is going to be a hit book. And then all of a sudden now you're paying $50 for this book that you could have paid cover price on because you hesitated. I mean, this will be a big collectible. I mean, I don't want the market to be that way, but it is that way. That's just the truth. And this will be a very hot book when it comes out. I promise you. You guys will be thoroughly entertained with this whole universe. I mean, my last thing here for both of you. If you guys had a choice to have this as either a live action movie or an animated feature, which would you choose?
Whoa.
I'd go for animated because I love it. I think it would look amazing if it were animated.
Yeah, because they're very anime-ish to me, kind of the artwork.
Yeah.
You know, like a very distinct anime highlights to the characters, which I like a lot. How you
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you could bring that warped sensibility to it in a really funky style, and I just don't know that a live action would take a very good director to bring out the insanity of Emanuele's art. So yeah,
Yeah, and you know the colors too. The colors are crazy, and you couldn't
Mhm.
get that in a movie. I think an animated series would
There you
be best.
See,
Yeah.
we have spoken it onto the world, so it will be a realization and a truth, my dudes. Yeah, you guys
Love
will
it.
see. You guys will see. With that, yo, guys, for real, Ryan, Emanuele, thank you so much for hanging out and just talking about the greatness of this great, awesome book that's coming out from Mad Cave. You know, thank you, everybody at Mad Cave too for hooking us up to chit chat today. For real,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So my outro tells you everything you need to do, folks. You know what it is, all right? So with that, I'm Omega, and I'm out. Hasta la próxima, mi gente. Later. Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.